Good afternoon, or morning, or evening, or night, Left on Red listeners. It's Cam here. Not going to do a super long intro, but yeah, this is going to be episode 2 or part 2 of our interview with the great Jimmy Falun Gong. Yeah, there's not really a whole lot to say. This is a busy week. It's a holiday week. So we're not going to get together and record anything, additional to add on. We'll get right to the juicy part. I do just want to quickly say thank you so much for all of the listeners and the support that last episode brought in. We can only assume that we have listeners of Program to Chill to thank for that. So thank you all so much for kind of migrating over and checking out our stuff. Obviously, that episode 59, part 1 of this interview was a huge hit for us. But, people were also listening to a lot of our other stuff, and we really appreciate that. So thank you so much. I'm not going to hold up the show any longer. I think we'll kind of just dive right back in to kind of uphold continuity. Just wanted to quickly sort of introduce the episode, and thanks again for all of the support this past week. We really appreciate it. We'll be back next week with some more cool stuff of our own, and we hope that you guys continue to check us out and enjoy what we're doing, because we're pretty stoked at the response that we've gotten lately. So thank you so much. And like I said, without further ado, enjoy the show.
What do you think? Should we go through a couple of the guys?
Yeah, I mean, that's what the people want.
Yeah.
Yeah. The people
They've
want.
spoken.
Yeah, they want their bread in circuses. So let's. I think Santa Cruz is a good place to start. If we start talking about just the coterie of freaks that were hanging around the Bay Area in the late '60s. If you want to start there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. So, two of my favorites would definitely be Ed Kemper and John Linley Frazier.
Your favorites. I just think that...
Yeah,
I know. Ed Kemper.
I'm not a true crime head.
Yeah.
I'm not actually a fan of any of these people.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. I am a fan of the actor who plays Ed Kemper in Mindhunter, though. Like, every time I think of I can't, I still picture his voice in my head anytime I read or hear about Ed Kemper. Just that guy's portrayal was so good.
No, I really did enjoy the first season of Mindhunter, and it's almost like all because of the Ed Kemper. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. It's like I watch it, and I'm just like, all right, I'll accept the PSYOP. I'll accept it.
And I did want to say, so you've seen it. Have you seen the Mindhunter show, Cam?
I watched season 1, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's interesting, right? Because they talked to Ed Kemper, who definitely did probably the majority of the crimes that were attributed to him. Yeah. They don't talk to John Linley Frazier. Because he probably did not do most of the crimes that are attributed to him.
Right.
Yeah. You notice I forget exactly, but they either don't get to talk to David Berkowitz or they only get to barely talk to him.
Briefly, they briefly talked to David Berkowitz. And the guy that they got to play him looks just like David Berkowitz, too, which is funny. Yeah.
It's funny, because they barely get to talk to Berkowitz, they barely get to talk to Manson, and it's that's because...
Well, especially Manson too. It's that's because he was a spook. But
right,
yeah. Man, he was just an aspiring folk singer with some freaky ideas. Okay.
Yeah. Who routinely got arrested and just immediately set free. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Dave McGowan does not like argue that like all of these serial killers are deeply fucked up people, because they are. They're like demonstrably right.
You know,
Like
that's sort of one that like you can accept that premise. You know,
in fact, he kind of goes into aspects of several of these serial killers that like tends to almost support the idea that they are what they are. Because like there is this idea that there's a certain amount of serial killing that just exists naturally. Have you ever seen those like charts that show the amount of serial killers by country?
Oh, yeah.
I have
The United
not,
States
actually.
is just off the charts.
Yeah, in the United States from the 60s to 80s especially, but yeah, in general. I mean, I think we talk about that too, like, I think it was in our Jack the Ripper one, you know, we talk about, like, there's always kind of been serial killers, like, you have, like, Gita Ra and shit like that, you know what I mean? Like, that are just in the historical record from, like, even, like, a millennia ago and shit like that, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But for sure, like, Dave McGowan goes through how a lot of these serial killers were abused as children, no surprise.
Yep.
Frequently sexually abused, you know, no surprise. A lot of us know, like, some of the warning signs of, like, fire starting, bedwetting, like, abusing animals, like, and on and on. The flip side is that a lot of serial killers were in mental institutions, which doesn't sound surprising, because if they're kind of crazy, then there would maybe be a record of some of them receiving treatment. Now, where it gets interesting is when you can pin down where they were treated at certain points and see, oh, I don't know, they went to this facility. Were there any spooky fucked up things happening when they were at that facility? And wouldn't you know...
Yeah, do you see the Human Ecology Fund there at all with any funding?
Right. So Ed Kemper, in particular, was sent to Atascadero. And guess who else was at Atascadero? But this one doctor, Dr. Donald Lundy. Dr. Donald Lundy was later called upon to testify at Ed Kemper's trial once he was convicted of, like, serial killing.
Yeah. And that was not the only trial that he testified at.
No, it was not.
This dude comes up every, like, 10 or 20 pages. This dude's coming up at a different serial killer's trial.
Dr. Don.
So this Santa Cruz, San Francisco general area was home to at least 6 serial killers or serial killer adjacent figures. We're talking Charles Manson, Stanley Baker, Ed Kemper, Herb Mullen, John Linley Frazier, and asterisk on this, the Zodiac Killer.
Yeah.
And then you could also put on a couple more, like, if you want to, like, loop in some other people as well. And you gotta ask yourself, like, why Santa Cruz? Why San Francisco?
Yeah, even, like, Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, he was there at the same time, and then he leaves there and, you know, goes and does his business.
And so one of my guests that I had on my show, Pastiche Psyop, great name for a Twitter handle, she documented how, like, in Santa Cruz, they were running experimental, like, I forget exactly how she phrased it, experimental rehabs on at-risk youths who had a propensity for violence.
Yeah.
Which Ed Kemper...
Doesn't sound like it was working too well, or it sounds like it was working quite well.
Right. And so there are certain places where they're like, where there are, like, these flare-ups, right? So Santa Cruz is a big one, where I think Ed Kemper and Herb Mullen were pretty much active at the same time. They even dumped bodies next to each other at one point.
Yep. Yeah, I think, like, literally, I think there may be, like, a month on either end of their kind of killing sprees.
Yeah.
Difference, but other than that, it's like the exact same time frame.
And they get caught around the same time. They get put on trial at the same time. And wouldn't you know, the prosecution and defense are pretty much like the same.
Yeah.
Yep, they have the exact same defense team, not even just one lawyer team. Dr. Donald Lundy, he's there at both trials.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. D.
And then,
Dr. Don.
So, I don't know about you guys. Like, I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
I'm not pretending like I'm a legal expert here. But when someone is more or less guilty of something horrific, your defense lawyer, no defense lawyer would ever tell you, hey, buddy, get on the stand. Tell them the details.
Get the fuck up there, bud.
Argue your case.
Story. You fucking freak.
Tell them why that bitch had it coming.
Tell them that story about your mom's head. What was up with that?
For 7 years, she said, I haven't had sex with a man because of you, my murderous son. This is one of our arguments. I cut off her head, and I humiliated her corpse. It's there. You know?
Yeah.
And,
dude, wait, listen, no, you guys are gonna fucking love this.
Now get a fucking load of this guy over here.
So you will see time and time again anomalous defenses by serial killers' lawyers, where they tell their client to get on the stand and like discuss their horrific crimes.
Let it rip, dude.
100% guarantees that they get convicted.
Yeah, or they'll call witnesses that like are just like, this guy fucking did this shit, and he's a sick piece of shit.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's supposed to be the defense's witness,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like there's just like bizarre anomalous cases where like, yeah, like I said, just like weird things happen in trials with serial killers. Things that like, okay, serial killers are already like statistical anomalies, right? Because even if I don't know, the government were creating serial killers or, you know, enabling them or something, like even still it's a statistical blip. But that doesn't explain why like the prosecution and the defense and the judge are like acting bizarre and like different than a normal murder trial, right?
Right.
Yeah, or then like you're having like you'll have these it'll be a different defense team, but then they'll use the same playbook of a failed defense of a different serial killer, and they'll call the same witnesses who fucked the other guy. And then this defense team is like, yeah, why don't we just bring those guys over to this one too? And it'll be like in a different state, and they're calling the same people over who are giving the same fucking testimony that's damning your client. And it's just like, you know, at a certain point, there's only like, you can only read that so many times before you're like, okay.
There's something fucky going on here.
Yeah.
To a certain degree,
somebody's getting paid
like
pretty well right now.
To a certain degree, like, I'm fine with making sure that those people go to prison, sure.
Yeah.
But
yeah, fuck them,
but then the issue is that maybe they didn't commit all of the crimes.
Right.
Maybe they only committed half of them, or, you know, 80% of them or something. Like,
or there's like Ted Bundy, who gets arrested with a bunch of money on him at the Eglin Air Force Base, and when they ask where he got all that money, he's like, I forget exactly what he said, but he was just basically like, you know, there's other people involved here. Like,
yeah,
so at the Air Force Base is where he gets arrested,
and like,
it's like, what?
There are Ted Bundy crimes where they happen, and like, you literally cannot possibly get from point A to point B quick enough to do both of the crimes.
Yeah, he was like confirmed in a different part of the state.
Yeah.
Like, they said that he did the same attack. Or he did an attack, like, within minutes of each other, and he's like hours away.
One of my buddies, Recluse from the Farm Podcast, he actually tried to do the drive to even see if you could even drive that fast to like get and like, no, you can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, or like where like his you know, the killings at that like sorority house where one of the sisters who saw him was like, yeah, he had like a gigantic nose and he looked exactly like the groundskeeper. And then you have Ted Bundy, who didn't look like that at all. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, he was also wearing a face mask, but she like clearly stated what his face was.
Right.
Well, you see, Evan, memory's a funny thing, and it actually means whatever we want it to mean.
Yeah, that's why we've developed the False Memory Syndrome Foundation, just to handle these sorts of cases.
And by the way, there are no pedophiles in the False Memory Syndrome Foundation.
Yeah, there's definitely, there would be no reason for them to be there.
That would be
those
ridiculous.
kids don't really remember being molested.
All I got is poison like this Bell Biv in Defoe. Shit, it just might be a hazard if you see I'm unprovoked. I'm a woke, never emo, cause emotions don't evoke. I devote most of my time and effort not to be approached. Fuck a ghost, it's the omen flowing through the most morose. In the gross system of the nervous system of the host. Comatose, homeostasis. How many best overlook the oasis? How many bitches come out looking basic? Nigga, this like this is not an equation, huh? Trump cards on deck like I'm Reagan, huh? Every year some bullshit, I ain't pagan, huh? I wanna take over the world, but while I'm waiting, huh? That might be the same day I'm fading Satan, huh?
So, let's see here. Okay, so that's a good transition. Like, a bunch of serial killers said there were other people involved. And there are a bunch of serial killers who other people said other people were involved, whether witnesses or whatever. So off the top of my head, there's Wayne Williams of the Atlanta child murders, who can only be linked to the murder of an adult, and he was only ever convicted of murdering an adult. Not saying that he was like, blameless. He probably murdered a guy, but like he probably didn't murder those kids.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's
they're like, we've caught the Atlanta child murderer, and we know this because he killed an adult.
Right. And it's like the FBI profile, right, typically talks about how serial killers go through like a refining of their process and their hunting, blah blah blah. And like there's all these cases that don't match that.
Right.
Yeah, right, like that it's some sort of psychosexual thing. You know what I mean? Where, they're trying to relive some sort of, moment each time. And it's like, okay, then why are they all doing this totally differently? Like, we kind of like briefly went over the Zodiac earlier, but like every Zodiac killing's a completely different thing. You know what I mean?
Like shootings don't even like really match that for the most part. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
John Wayne Gacy, of course, he said that there were other people involved.
One of the victims said that there were other people involved. One of the cops who was tailing him said that while they were tailing him, John Wayne Gacy met with some of his employees, and he overheard him say, "Buried it where? With the other bodies?" The cop heard him say that.
Yeah. And like,
and then when he was arrested, he asked if they had his associates in custody. As
like,
well.
Who did you arrest? Like,
But yeah, one of the victims was like, there was definitely other people squatting over me while I was being tortured, and then he was just like let go as well.
Yeah, exactly. And then Jeffrey Dahmer had both equipment that he probably couldn't afford. He had in his apartment a big tank that he could not have brought up by himself.
So I do want to talk about that. So that's one that I can specifically testify that there's a 0%, and I do mean a 0.0% chance that, I mean, maybe if you're Hafthor Julius Bjornsson, the strongman, maybe you could get one of these up the stairs, but people would hear you. Because, like, at my last job, I was the hazmat manager for, like, a chemistry lab, and we had 55-gallon drums. And when they're filled with liquid, they're like 400 to 500 pounds. And the official story is that Jeffrey Dahmer brought one into a taxi that was filled with acid. I'll just buckle this in next to me. That I've just brought into the backseat, which it wouldn't fit in the backseat, and then brought it up the stairs. Like, you couldn't even do that with a drum dolly by yourself.
Hey,
like,
buddy, what's with the drum?
That, I was like, okay.
Sorry, man. It's just 400 pounds of acid.
It's just obvious bullshit.
Exactly. And then some people know the story that, like, one of Dahmer's victims, well, more than one got away.
Yeah.
And then the police brought one back, an an underage boy.
And went, like, inside the apartment where he supposedly had, like, rotting corpses, and they were just like...
Well, yeah, their reaction was
yeah.
like, this is just some gay shit. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
it's just some of that gross gay shit. I'm sure it's fine.
Milwaukee's
Yeah.
finest.
All right, you
right?
boys, just keep it down now.
Oy.
And that cop that, like, did that, he, like, got fired, but then, like, they had to rehire him and shit. Oh, there's a whole thing
Yeah.
with that guy.
Oh,
But,
God.
I mean, say what you will about feudal Japan, but at least in the old
Mm-hmm.
days, you would disembowel yourself for doing something that dishonorable.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, seppuku would be the way to go. Evan, speaking of which, I've been thinking you should probably do it, and I will happily serve as your second and remove your head.
Yeah, will you make sure
One
that
clean cut,
my
bud.
Bushido does not fail
You-
at the final moment?
So I don't want to totally derail our conversation, but that does bring up a point. Jimmy, I've been listening to your series on Imperial Japan, which is a subject that's sort of near and dear to my heart, and I've been loving it because, you know, and you kind of go into this, and so I will just recommend to our listeners that they go and listen to your show because it's awesome, and I'm like completely enraptured by that particular subject. But one thing
That's
that I
good
wanted
because a lot of people didn't like the Japan stuff.
really.
Well, I think
man.
they did, but then they got tired of it or
Sure.
something. But I
yeah.
personally
Well,
got
yeah.
tired of doing Japan too, so I kind
Yeah.
of sympathize. But
That's totally fair.
Yeah, it's a lot of episodes.
It is. It was a big project. I mean, but you know, just as someone who did appreciate it, first of all, it's awesome. So,
Thank you.
Of course. One thing that I wanted to talk about before I forget, and maybe now's not the time, I don't know, but I really wanted to pick your brain
Brief
about
aside.
the inherent fascism of anime, because I was so stoked to hear you just like immediately just like, you know, anime's all bad, and I mean, you can listen to it if you want to, but it's like pretty much all bad. So, and I mean, I don't mean to put words in your mouth there, but how upset did the weebs get, and do you have anything you want to talk about fascist
Weeb
anime?
views.
you know, actually, I thought that would be more controversial. No one really. If anyone got mad at it, they didn't contact me about it.
Oh, good.
They're probably used to the abuse.
I know. Weirdly, I don't get a lot of pushback for a lot of things that I talk about.
Yeah.
You want to know the thing that I got the most pushback on
What's that?
was
Yeah.
when I said the Beatles were a psyop. That was one where people were just like, "No,
Well, there's a lot of white dads out there, dude. You got to be really careful
Yeah.
when you knock the Beatles.
gotta pick your battles."
Yeah, plus they had the movie that was on, what was that, Disney Plus or whatever. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
about the making of one of their albums or something like that. So, you know, I mean, everybody was really in Beatles mania.
It was about like
for a
10
bit
minutes
there.
of interesting footage in that 4-part documentary.
I
Yeah.
refuse to watch a second of that. I have not and will never.
I
watch
zipped around a
second
little
of
bit
that.
of it because I love a lot of that like early Studio Magic stuff, and watching how they got some of those sounds was cool. But like
Yeah.
most of it was just them dicking around, like, "Oh, what if I played the G chord?" Like, and it's just like, who fucking cares? There's nothing worth
Yeah.
seeing here. Like, I've been in a million
Yeah.
band practices with this idiot, and I know for a fact that like
Thank you.
those conversations are not worth storing for posterity.
They're not. They're usually like interspersed with a lot of beer burps. And, like, yeah,
Kind of like
there's just,
this show,
yeah,
honestly.
No reason for it.
We've just sort of
Yeah.
continued. We got rid of the music, and now we just do the band rehearsal conversation.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyway, I didn't mean to distract. I just wanted to quickly
No, that's
shout out because I
good.
thought that was a cool series, and I just thought the
Yeah.
fascist anime thing was funny.
So, but as long as we're doing asides, I do want to go back to Wayne Williams, and I don't know, maybe we can even throw this clip here into this podcast. But Jimmy, you had a clip where it was amazing. I was driving home from work, and I literally I probably listened to this clip about 5 times. I almost had to pull over.
Oh, yeah.
Because this reporter, right? So like Wayne Williams, there's like some kind of CIA training base like near Atlanta where Wayne Williams grew up. And like it was uncovered that Wayne Williams himself wrote about how he was trained there. And this reporter brings it up to him while he's in jail. And she's doing it as a way to try to gotcha him into saying that he knows how, you know, even though he's a small guy, he knows like hand-to-hand combat. And therefore, like, he could probably kill a person larger than him, like a child or whatever he was accused of. But like, he has no fucking idea that that's the way that she's going at, and you can tell he's fucking, like, he's panicking. Because she's asking him about this, and he's like, I can't talk about that, I can't talk about it. Like, he keeps saying, like, and you can hear the panic in his voice, until he realizes that, like, she doesn't realize how close she is to something, and then he realized, oh, you mean the hand-to-hand.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah, it's like, he's thinking that she's, like, going down a road that he's very scared for her to go down. And she doesn't even fucking realize it, because she's just trying to get a guy who's already in jail for killing people to admit that he could kill somebody.
Yeah.
It was like, it was, yeah, again, one of those moments where it's just like, again, my brain just leaking out of my ears.
Good morning, how you doing?
When we returned to prison for our final interview with Wayne Williams, we had one question he was not expecting. What Wayne had written about being recruited for espionage training as a teenager. At a secret government camp hidden in the woods near this North Georgia lake, where he was given what could amount to a license to kill. It's called Finding Myself. What's Finding Myself? It reads like an autobiography.
Go ahead, I'm still trying to see.
It's a account of your CIA training.
We're not going to get into that.
Why not?
We're not going to get into that.
I got a copy of it.
Yeah, but we're not going to get into that.
Why not?
We're just simply not going to get into that.
By his account, Wayne Williams was fresh out of high school, just 18 years old, when he was initiated into a secret world. So, I'll do the talking part, and you can answer what part of it you want. You write how you fired rifles, submachine guns, handled assault weapons, grenade launchers, C4, learned unarmed combat techniques through this training group over weekends. Is it true or is it false?
We're not going to comment on that.
When you're 19 years old. You're saying you work for the CIA. You've been recruited.
I'll let the document speak for itself. We're not going to comment on that.
Copyright 1992 by Wayne Williams. Is this an autobiography?
I cannot comment on that.
Were you trained in unarmed combat techniques? Could you grab somebody bigger than yourself, put them in a chokehold? Because that's what that is.
I'm sure there are other things in unarmed combat besides putting somebody in a chokehold.
Well, when I talk to the military experts and I say to them, what exactly does that mean? That's one of the things on their list. Top 2 things, by the way.
I wouldn't doubt that.
So, are you trained in that or not?
Let me say this. Let's just say that I had some experiences that I do not want to comment on today for reasons that the document says, okay? The fact is, what does that have to do with the situation today?
Everything.
You tell me.
It has everything to do with it.
Listen.
A big part of the conversation when I talked to your lawyers was, could Wayne Williams grab somebody? Did he have the strength? Look how he's not a big guy. Could he grab someone in a unarmed combat technique and kill them? It's actually a very simple question. Can you kill someone with a chokehold? And when you were 19 years old,
you probably could under the right
I know for a
circumstances.
fact I could not. I know you're being facetious, but I know for a fact I could not.
You don't know.
But were you trained as a teenager to do that? Because that's what you're writing in this.
All
And
I can
I
say-
get CIA, you don't want to talk about it. It's all off the record.
Let me state this for the record. Okay. I think in the paper that you have, and I will say this, that it says that there was contact with a certain program. And I will say it was the junior officer training program, which was run by a certain agency, and you're correct, CIA. But I never said that I worked for them. I simply said
Now who's splitting hairs?
that I
Were
had
you trained?
some contact
Were you
with some
trained?
person, and that's all I'm going to say.
Were you trained
That's all I'm
in
going to
these
say.
techniques?
That's all I'm going to say.
No, absolutely. That you should insert that clip because it is like chilling.
Yeah.
Because like,
Yeah.
first of all,
He is
like he's a killer,
he's
so
in-
it's already like spooky. But like,
Yeah.
he's Okay, that's the interesting thing. Okay, he they refer to this thing that he wrote. I've never been able to find it. If one of your listeners by chance has the Wayne Williams
memoir or whatever,
memoir, like, let me know.
Prison memoir.
I've tried so hard to find it, but he's talking about being trained at this paramilitary camp in different arts of, like, killing people, surveillance, different things.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Now, there was actually a camp near Atlanta,
Yep.
and it trained mercenaries and various people. It was run by a guy named Mitch Werbel III. He's the guy who invented, I think, a certain type of silencer, and I think he was part of the group that created the MAC-10 machine gun, the Whispering Death, as they say. And so he ran this, like, camp. It's actually still in Atlanta. It's run by his kids, I'm pretty sure. And wouldn't you know, they trained all types of mercenaries, all types
It's like some School of the Americas shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Some of the LaRouche cults trained there around the same time.
Dude, yeah. When this, I was listening to that, and it's just like seeing all of these different fucking things, like, converging here. It's like those moments when you just, like, all the, like, kind of the spider web, I don't know, you just, like, all converges and then branches back out.
Because, the Klan was getting training there, and some of those guys went on to do actual bombings and shit. Like, truly insane stuff. So, like, when Wayne Williams says, like, I didn't kill those kids, and, like, I was trained at this paramilitary camp, like, no one's stupid. No one knows to just trust convicted serial killers in everything they say. But, like, most of them are not saying, I'm innocent. Most of them are saying, I did some of the murders, but not all of them.
Right.
And that is, like,
like
not going to get them
David
free.
Berkowitz does the same thing,
Yeah, like, that is not what you would claim if you're trying to get, your conviction overturned or whatever.
Right.
Or make a deal.
They're like, no, listen, I killed some folks. I just didn't kill those ones.
Right.
Yes.
Or I didn't do this shit by myself.
Right, if I'm going down, I need the real truth to be illuminated. And so, yeah, you're right. That stuff always just gets glossed over. It's like, no, you did all of them. We know you did all of them, you fuck.
Yeah, it's kind of like a similar thing where, like, the only two assassins in history that didn't want to take credit for the assassination were Sirhan Sirhan and Lee Harvey Oswald. Like, every other political assassin can't shut the fuck up about how proud they are that they did that shit.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, they've usually got some kind of axe to grind. They've got some kind of political motive.
Maybe
and
a
they
manifesto.
do the killing as a way to make that known. Yeah. And then except the only two that don't are the Kennedy ones, you know?
Exactly.
No.
No, it's so true because, like, political assassins love to talk about their motivations.
Well,
They can't shut the fuck up. That's why they did it.
What's the point of a political assassination if you're not getting your message across? It's
no,
like
nobody does a political
right.
Yeah, nobody who's not like a government operative does a political assassination and thinks they're gonna get away with it. Like, if you're just some fucking swinging dick and you take a shot at a politician,
you know you're going down.
Like, you're gonna get caught, and that's kind of part of the thing. You want to like bring light to something.
Well, right. It's like why like groups like Al Qaeda or whatever will just blanket take credit for things they didn't even do, because it's all about the message, right? And so, like, if you're in a situation, you're right. It makes no sense. Like, why wouldn't you? I killed him, and here's why. It's like, no, I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Like, what do you accomplish with that?
What the fuck are you talking about? I just saw some woman in a polka dot dress, and then next thing I know, I'm arrested.
In a paddy wagon.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Let's see here. Let's see. What other stuff do you want to hit up? Let's see.
I mean, we've got our boy Jolly West showing up a few times, right?
Oh, yeah. He is all over the place.
The crown prince of spooks, man. Every time Jolly West shows up, some shit's gonna go down. That's like Jack Ruby. He was fine, then Jolly and West gives him a little checkup, and Jack Ruby can never speak again.
Next thing you know.
Yeah. Well, look at he's too crazy to testify.
Whoops. So let's see. I was just trying to decide or see what would make sense, because for sure, like, you know, my ability to talk extemporaneously is like heavily dependent on whether I wrote an episode on it. But
Sure.
I will say, I will say this though. Part of my show, like Program to Chill, was inspired by like simply reading Program to Kill and being like, no. And then like I go into the footnotes and I'm like, there's no way that's true. And I go track down the footnote, and lo and behold, I find something that's even more crazy than what he actually put in the book.
Right.
And like, I can't tell you how many times I did that. And after a certain point, I was just like, well, I might as well just freaking do a show or something if I'm doing all this research.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you know, a little bit different, but that's basically why Cam and I started this podcast too. Like, for years we talked about doing the podcast because both of us are pretty vociferous readers, and we just basically, like, you know, barf out all of these, you know, facts to each other all the time.
Yeah, it became like an echo chamber.
Like, listen, instead of just like annoying each other with like our like hyper focus,
or like
like
subjecting
shit, why don't we just do
our
a
friends
show?
and family who like don't give a fuck about any of it. We may as well just
like, we're glad you're interested, Evan, but can you fuck off?
Yeah, so it's like we may as well just put this out there, and then people who specifically want this exact type of thing can have it, and we get the satisfaction of running our mouths, and then other people who actually want to hear it can hear it. Yeah, this podcasting thing is kind of strange, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is pretty weird.
Yeah, I mean, I think about, so you obviously have guests on your show, but also do a lot of your shows independently, and I can only imagine like doing a solo podcast where you don't have someone else to kind of bounce off of and kind of create dialogue and fill time, because a lot of what we do, I mean, the first 10 to 20 minutes of most of our episodes are just Evan and I bullshitting, right? And so we pad it and we get ourselves out to an hour and 15. But you must be working from a script pretty much exclusively, and that's got to be just a lot of work, man.
Yeah, no, I basically do script out my solo episodes, and it's like kind of stupid how much work it is, actually.
Yeah, the hardest working man in podcasting.
I added up the amount of pages that I wrote, and my Google Doc kept crashing.
Wow, dude.
Really? Damn.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I've got all of mine like laid out into different docs, but like they're all like side by side. I'm just like watching that list grow as well. But like you know, a lot of that, like, you know, if I write like I said, like a lot of it, you know, we can just kind of start bullshitting at a certain point. I can't even imagine doing the podcast just solo like that. It must be.
Yeah, we've each written
brutal.
like a small book at this point. Granted, on different subjects, you know. But if every episode's 8 to 12 pages or a little more for us.
We each have like hundreds.
Like 58. Yeah, this will be 59. 59 and 60 probably.
I look in the mirror and look at a killer. I grew up with niggas crop you out the picture. Bodies keep stacking up year after year. Got the young niggas thinking they serial killers. On choppers with switches, they scratch off the cereal. The blood in the whip, it fucked up its interior. Watch what you say, cause this shit can get real. And watch how you move unless you measure steel. Shot in the car and I got the wheel. These niggas on with, they got bodies for real. My Dutch got out, he did 20 some years. He took it to trial, but he lost his appeal. I went to school with some serial killers. They breaking your house, they need serial with you. The same nigga cut first period with you. Watch who you trust, they might be out to get you. And one wrong step, you get put in a swisher. Say the wrong thing, get put in a backwood. Wipe a nigga, no tissue. Bless him. Last nigga tried me, found in the backwood. Ain't none of these crews more vicious. Just play a good role and they show can't act good. Put folks in my business. Nigga spoke on my name and got smoked like a pack of wood.
I've given up this time. I don't like the way that you're holding me hostage. It hurts when I'm alive.
Yeah, so I guess, do we want to kind of rein it in a little bit? Evan, is there something else, like a prompt that you wanted to kind of direct conversation?
Yeah, I did want to talk about Richard Ramirez.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which also, your Richard Ramirez episode introduced me to the rapper Ramirez. Which he fucking rips, so I've been listening to a lot of his shit since then.
Yeah.
But
it's funny because I was like, obviously I read about Richard Ramirez in Program to Kill, and I thought it was interesting, but like, the origin of that episode was like, I was just listening to the rapper, and I was just like, what if I did a Richard Ramirez episode using that music?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. But yeah, Richard Ramirez, who's I guess if we're going to talk about Richard Ramirez, maybe we want to briefly talk about something I haven't quite gotten to yet for the podcast, because we haven't gotten to Vietnam, but the Phoenix program, which also sort of really ties in with the entire Program to Kill thesis. So do you want to give like a quick background on the Phoenix program?
Yeah, so a lot of your listeners probably know the Vietnam War was pretty fucked up.
That's a hot take, man.
Yep.
This is going to be a controversial one.
Yeah, it is. It is tough to take the side of America in the Vietnam War, although some real unrepentant hogs will still do it. But
exactly. So basically, the Phoenix program was this. It's really interesting because there's like, just like with MK Ultra or something, there's like this understanding of it, and then there's like these additional elements. But like the general understanding is that it was a targeted assassination program,
right?
Which is like bad enough. The additional interesting aspects are that they would go in and like abduct people. Sometimes they would kill them just right there, but frequently they would like go in and take people, which is spooky. They had like, the whole thing was run by the CIA, so they had like computerized systems of keeping track of like who you need to abduct and like what that would do to like a network that is resisting you type of thing, like all kinds of really and then it incorporated like torturing them and like getting names, things of this nature.
Yeah, and it's also really with the Phoenix program that you see kind of like computer technology really explode. Which you can also then, we can get back to the Phoenix program in 1 second, but also then you see something like where copper wiring is really important to these computer systems that start exploding during Vietnam, and lo and behold, there's a lot of copper mines in Chile, and then you get Allende in Chile, right in the early 70s, and then he starts nationalizing copper mines, and how these tendrils just start, across continents, and across decades.
What was I saying though? Where were we talking about the Phoenix program?
Yep.
So the Phoenix program is relevant to Richard Ramirez primarily because his cousin, it was cousin, right?
His cousin,
cousin Miguel.
What's his name? Yes. Yeah.
He was a Green Beret in Vietnam. And so he came back from the war, and, he sounds like a real fucking loser. Like,
yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Like,
he's showing his, 12-year-old cousin Polaroids of him, raping girls at gunpoint and shit.
Yeah, exactly. And, so Cousin Miguel got up to some really heinous shit as a Green Beret. We're talking, literal photographs of, people he, decapitated, women he raped at gunpoint, just insane shit. And so little Richard Ramirez is, hanging out with Cousin Miguel, smoking pot, and,
looks up to,
learning about all this stuff, and Cousin Miguel's, teaching him, hey, you know how to kill someone? This is the way to do it. This is the way you cut someone's neck, not, crazy.
Yeah,
crazy
this is
shit.
how you can hide out in the shadows and use shadows to the point where somebody's not going to be able to really see you until it's too late. All that shit.
Yeah, so with Richard Ramirez, it's interesting, right? Because I don't think that there was any government brainwasher sitting there trying to be okay, now you're going to go be a serial killer. Richard Ramirez is probably the story of blowback in multiple different ways.
Exactly.
Right?
That's why I wanted to talk about this, yeah.
Because, his childhood, I thought it's so fucked up. It's like a David Lynch nightmare.
I think most humans have in them the capacity to commit murder. It is not because...
No, we don't, Richard.
Yeah. Yeah, so, like, when you said that, too, I could really picture it, because Eraserhead's my favorite movie. And, like, as you said, like, you know, Richard Ramirez, he has, like, an older sibling. His older brother is, like, severely deformed. He was born, like, in, like, basically, like, this, like, industrial, like, chemical, basically, like, wasteland that's also, like, the winds from, like, the New Mexico, like, nuclear tests are, like, just blowing over the town he's from. Yep.
And so, like, a ton of kids in that town were getting birth defects. You know, this is like, it's one of those, like, weird gray zones where the government kind of doesn't acknowledge it, but, like, there are a bunch of, like, Native Americans and, like, just Mexicans who, like, just had these, like, crazy birth defects. His mom worked at, like, a boot chemical factory, and so she was, like...
Yeah, no respirators or nothing,
just gnarly shit. And so, like... Yeah, several of his siblings had different birth defects. One in particular was pretty bad. He like his older brother's legs were all like fucked up, and like he needed like dozens of surgeries to be able to walk. Who knows what happened to Richard Ramirez? But wouldn't you know, he ended up with like really bad grand mal seizures.
Yeah, and like his mom was like working in this chemistry lab like while pregnant. Yep.
And, like, it's just spooky shit, because, like, I didn't know this, but, like, a side effect of having grand mal seizures is that you literally see demons. Jesus. Or just things that you could call demons, like, you don't know what they are. And then, like, that went away, and, like, you know, he was growing up in, like, a working-class Mexican-American neighborhood, which didn't have a lot of opportunities, so, like, his brother became a junkie. He wasn't going to probably go into the military, so, like, he became a burglar, and, like, he just became this burglar junkie who then, after a certain point, just decided to start killing people. And, like, he latched on to Satanism and very explicitly identified with his crimes with Satanism.
Yep.
He met Anton LaVey, all kinds of really spooky, weird stuff. Long story short, he goes on this whole murder spree, he gets caught, etc., etc. But...
yeah, at one point he gets arrested. The cop, like, walks away from the car, he gets out, draws a pentagram on the hood, and then runs away. And the cop's just like, this is cool, this is normal.
Exactly.
It just lets him go.
And then there's, like, slight indications that there could be something more, like, it's less obvious than maybe with other serial killers, but like Sean Penn,
yeah, who's 100% a spook.
He's something, and he managed to get he got arrested and he got put in a cell right next to Richard Ramirez, just like weird shit.
Yeah, he's always popping up in all these things.
And then, like...
You know, he's popping up in Ukraine and shit like that.
He caught El Chapo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
So
Sean Penn, dude.
And then you look at some of his roles. Like, don't get me started. There's so much with Sean Penn.
Yeah, like Jeff Spicoli.
There's...
I mean, Fast Times. That's clear spook shit.
Yeah.
Am I hallucinating here? Just what in the hell do you think you are doing?
Learning about Cuba, having some food.
Yeah, there's definitely some shit going down with Sean Penn.
Yeah.
Was it Sean Penn? No. You know what? I was thinking of Woody Harrelson, whose dad was like probably a hitman.
Yeah,
that's a whole separate thing. I was thinking it was Sean Penn.
I don't actually think this, but there's a legitimate theory that Woody Harrelson's dad could have been the gunman on the grassy knoll.
I remember. I read that too. Yeah.
I don't know exactly if I have a strong theory as to like who it was, but he definitely was.
It was Woody Harrelson's dad and H.W. Bush, both of them. They were the hobos.
And then one of Richard Ramirez's lawyers later went on to be the lawyer for like Charles Ng. With the whole Lake and Ng murders, just like certain so like
what were the Lake and Ng murders? I'm not even familiar.
Yeah, those ones are later on in PTK.
Okay, I'll get there.
They were like Yeah.
Here's a little teaser.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I do have a Awakening episodes that are in the
Nice.
works.
Oh,
They're
cool.
recorded, not edited, and
Nice.
there's a lot with that. But the long story short is that they were all about having a bunker where they would abduct and torture women.
Okay.
That was like their MO. Really fucked up shit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, jeez.
But anyway, so that's Richard Ramirez. It's like maybe the least like there are intelligence ties to this, but like there's so many weird little details with him still, you know. Oh,
yeah,
he was
but
abused by a
that's the reason I
pedophile.
like his in there is because his cousin was like almost assuredly a Phoenix program assassin, and so it's like, you know, sometimes, you know, it sort of goes with like the whole idea of like program to kill is that there's not like one thing, but rather there's this whole like confluence of things, and that, you know, this explosion of serial killers really can't just be explained as people killing other people in, you know, in like a serial fashion, but rather that there's blowback and maybe intentional creation, and, you know, things like assassins where you're hiding them in serial killings and stuff like that. There's this whole sort of series of other potential explanations for some of them.
Yeah, and I respect that he doesn't try to just replace one false answer with another false answer, because like there's not just the one thing. It's like 5 or 6 horrible things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I did want to say to wrap up or whatever.
Yeah.
And I know that you have this on your list, but the what I considered the smoking gun.
Yes. Yes. That's it. Yeah.
So, with a lot of the different episodes that I've done with, you know, my series FBI versus PTK, you know, I go through different serial killers like we've been talking about, and, you know, making the case, finding evidence that wasn't in Program to Kill, you know, either because it's come to light after the books come out, or, you know, maybe McGowan didn't know it, or, you know, there's lots of news sources and whatnot, but I found this MK Ultra subproject, because a lot of people know that there are a bunch of different subprojects. And MK Ultra subproject 39 was specifically studying sexual psychopaths.
Yep.
Awesome.
And so already we're kind of demolishing the idea that it was just MK Ultra was just dosing some people with acid. Ha ha ha.
Right.
Yeah, let's see what happens if we give him acid for 70 days.
Yeah, let's see what happens if we give acid to a guy that is a murderous pedophile or like a murderous rapist, right?
Yeah, and maybe put them in sort of these, put them inside of a box for like a month that they can't move in and shit like that, you know?
So there was this mental institution in Michigan, Ionia State Hospital, and they had this population of what they termed sexual psychopaths, all convicted, and we have the primary source material for like not the findings of the subproject, but like the initial layout, like the purpose of the experiments, what they were going to do, what the budget was, this and this. And so the idea was that, and you can always ask whether this was the real intention or not, but the idea was that a sexual psychopath would have secrets that they would not want to reveal, somewhat similar to like a foreign spy that gets caught. And so they could experiment on interrogating these guys and figure out if they could like get them to crack and tell the truth about their horrible crimes. The techniques that they were using were dosing people with all kinds of drugs, just like you thought, but also narco hypnosis and hypnosis. And so there are these like documents you can read, they're online, that explain how it's like, okay, we're going to have a control group that doesn't have anything done to them, and then we interrogate them. We're going to have a group where we do just hypnosis. We're going to have a group where we just give them drugs. We're going to have a group where we give them drugs and hypnosis and see if we can like get them to
unlock
talk.
these freaks.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's an open question as to whether they went on to do other things, because not very long after, I found this whole long legal battle where they were doing psychosurgery on these guys in Ionia. Psychosurgery would include lobotomies, but also could include implanting things or going in and poking other things. Like, psychosurgery could involve a lot of different things.
And also the CIA had been doing psychosurgery with dogs, implanting stimuli and things and trying to remote control them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that sounds awesome, though.
Yeah, a remote-controlled bionic, remote-controlled dog.
I don't see the problem with that.
Imagine,
I would love a remote
you can have your dog play fetch whenever you want to.
Can you imagine how demented it would be to play fetch with a dog and then have to control the dog to get the stick and bring it back to you to throw it for the dog that you're...
Just sort of like
just throw a stick and go get it.
Undermine the joy of a dog.
Right. And it's so gross. It's making me laugh. Like,
this is like these fucking sickos had these thoughts, and they're like, "Oh,
take like one of the just bar none one of the best organisms on this planet, like turn it into that's
and they're
horrible.
like, let's fuck with that shit,
make it a robot." Yeah,
awful. Sorry, that was too much for me.
So, in my research process, right, I was researching a completely different thing. I heard, okay, what was this about? An MK Ultra project with sexual psychopaths. That's the thing. Okay, your listeners probably know this, but like, do not trust the gatekeepers, the people who think that they know about a given topic, because like, if you were to read books about MK Ultra, they do not talk about the MK Ultra project that is out there, declassified, that talks about sexual psychopaths. Nobody talks about it.
Yeah, you always have to. That's like one of the things that, you know, when researching this stuff, is you always have to, you know, beware of the limited hangout. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's I could list off several books which have neglected to talk about this sub-project. Anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm like researching it, and I'm like, okay, and I'm like, oh, this is sounding really fucked up, okay, and then I'm like, okay, the psychosurgery thing, oh shit, oh, this is sounding really bad, and then I was like, oh fuck, okay, I'm like, okay, well, were there any serial killers that went to Ionia State Hospital at the time that they were doing this stuff? And I was like looking, and then I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
There was, in fact, a serial killer who went to Ionia State Hospital and, in fact, cited that time, and other people also said that his time at Ionia caused a severe personality change, and from that point on, after getting out of Ionia, went on a killing spree.
Jesus.
Do you want to know which serial killer this was?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Henry Lee Lucas.
Nice.
Yep. Who's one of the spookiest.
Oh, Hall of Famer for sure.
Serial killer.
Hall of Famer.
Well, spooky is in like, you know, spooky, yeah.
A real lunch pail 9 to 5 type of serial killer, putting in numbers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you guys want to give like a really quick, just so we're not talking about it and not...
Yeah. So Henry Lee Lucas killed anywhere between 200 to 600 people.
Yep.
He's like the Bo Jackson of killing folks. Just
yeah.
And if you're wondering about that range, well, we can thank the Texas Rangers, who
they're just like, so did you guys do this one? He's like, yeah, I did that shit.
They took Henry Lee Lucas on tour, state to state, where he would confess to dozens and dozens of murders.
Yeah, all right. Pull out all the cold cases, all the unsolved ones. Henry, you do this one? Yeah, I fucking did that shit. Yeah, I fucking killed that guy. Yeah.
Which, of course, obfuscates the fact that he did kill probably at least, dozens.
Right.
Is a very conservative estimate.
Yeah.
So...
and then they just used him to mop up all these unsolved. Hey, we solved 600 murders.
I mean that's like Herb Mullen too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where they're just tossing fucking. They're just getting clearances. You know what I mean? They're like, yeah, let's just give this guy this one too. Yeah,
Cops
fuck it.
just
I
being
got this
grimy.
triple murder over here. Yep, give him that one.
So the main thing with Henry Lee Lucas is that he said that it's known that he had an accomplice, Otis Toole, I think his name is.
Yep.
And it's also notable because Henry Lee Lucas famously said that he was trained at a paramilitary camp in the Florida Everglades. Hey, Evan and Cam, were there any paramilitary training camps in the Florida Everglades?
Yeah, there's a lot of shit going down in South Florida, man.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah. So Henry Lee Lucas said that he was inducted into a nationwide satanic cult that would abduct children for child porn production in Mexico. Also that they did drug trafficking. Also that they did organized crime hits. He made a lot of
He's got it all.
really crazy claims.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Henry Lee Lucas got the death sentence. He was put on death row. Do you know what happened to Henry Lee Lucas?
No, I don't.
No.
He was pardoned.
Oh, that's right. He was the only pardon. Yeah.
He was pardoned by Governor Bush.
No fucking
The
way.
only pardon Bush had. The only one.
Yeah. Governor Bush oversaw something like over 200 executions by the state of Texas. The only person he pardoned was Henry Lee Lucas.
It's like they're just like...
Or I should say
throwing it in
that
your
like
face.
he recommended that
Yeah.
like they review his case or whatever. It was like a soft pardon or whatever, but like
Yeah.
the only person for whom that happened. Now you have to ask yourself, with his claims that like there were high level people involved in his purported group, does that not sound a little bit more plausible if you think about it that way?
The Bushes are high level.
And
the Bushes are also, they're not above throwing shit in your face. It's like when HW says he doesn't remember where he was in Dallas of November 22nd, 1963. The only fucking person on Earth.
It's like, bro, you could just say you did. Like, you don't have to say you don't remember.
Just make up a lie, bro.
Right.
Like, yeah, the fact that he says he doesn't remember, he's just telling you, like, what the fuck are you gonna do
And then
about
didn't
it?
his dad send a bunch of money to Hitler?
Yeah.
Oh, Prescott? Yeah. Prescott
I know
was
it's not
super involved.
it's not proven, right? But it's pretty much.
No,
I think it is
No,
pretty
it's
proven,
that they were doing like trades
Business.
with the Nazi party, or the Nazi government, I should say.
Yeah.
A good American family.
But
yeah, and I mean the Bush family, they go back to like the Revolution. Like they're old American, you know what I mean?
yeah, they're not actually like Texas, Florida. Like they're actually
they're,
like
they're Yankees.
old
They're not
wasps.
Cowboys.
Yeah.
They're like old New England, right? They're like an old New England family.
Yeah, they're from Connecticut.
Man, all the best freaks are from here.
Vampires.
Yeah.
You guys in Connecticut?
Yeah, seriously.
Nah, we're in Mass.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
the worst
That's
New England
good.
state. I mean, the best, but the worst.
Right. No, so Henry Lee Lucas, he very likely got fucked up in this one of these MK Ultra related things he went on. So I consider that a smoking gun because I found it, because I didn't know it was there before I looked, and like it really freaked me out when I found it. So
And then you start thinking about Ed Kemper going to, what was it, Atascadero before his killing spree.
That's right.
Yep. And there were other ones there too, right, at Atascadero?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, and then you start thinking about these other serial killers who go to institutes that have connections, you know, or getting money from, you know, some of these CIA fronts, and then they go on killing sprees. and that's when yeah,
I mean, they're already pretty good at getting soldiers to kill.
Yeah.
How much easier maybe could it be to get an abused person to kill, basically?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So that's the thesis of Program to Kill, is that there's a bunch of factors, and that some people are, in fact, programmed to kill.
I'm smoking this dope, I might live, dog. Got too many pieces like Jigsaw. Keep talking sweet, you get knocked off. Gon' hit up your block with a Molotov. Keep it truly like bodybuilder. Got a problem, yeah, we can fix it. Pull out a chopper, no 30 ain't special. 223 rifle, it came with these stands. I'm smoking this dope, I might live, dog. Got too many pieces like Jigsaw. Keep talking sweet, you get knocked off. Gon' hit up your block with a Molotov. Keep it truly like bodybuilder. Got a problem, yeah, we can fix it. Pull out a chopper, no 30 ain't special. 223 rifle, it came with these stands. Handgun will travel. Any state, no matter. Any state, no pressure. You a lame, you shook and you extra. Why your ex keep hitting me up on the regular? Sex was alright, the head was incredible. I just spent 20K on a new necklace. I'm getting started, but bitch, I'm a veteran. Throwing these hundreds, I'm changing the weather. Little shorty pushy, get wetter. Give you these hands, big call by Mayweather. Homies in prison, still sending letters. They know that I got them on gang on their commissary. Got too many homies in cemetery. I love them, I miss them, I can't get them back. I do what they want me and get to them racks. She wanna be famous, she throwing it back. She won't get a shout out on shake her on whack. No love in this game, so my work for the tax. My shooters too shameless, run up in your trap. Cut of the kilo, I sell you it back. Watch how I whip it like Devo the track. Neighborhood Devo, I'm snatching your chain. Taking your bike, we keep it in this lane.
Wow. A nice little bow on top.
Now, yeah.
Neatly tied
Although,
up.
I guess to be a little bit lighthearted, too, I did at the end want to talk about, like, I don't know, maybe it's now that I've just read it, but, like, I feel like there's, like, a bunch of, like, media out there right now that's, like, PTK pilled. You know what I mean? Like, it's like at Netflix, they have the Son of Sam show that's based off of Ultimate Evil, Maury Terry.
Yeah.
I watched a couple episodes of that one. I didn't finish it, but they have the John Wayne Gacy one, which I don't know if it gets into his accomplices and stuff, but I've heard it's decent.
Yeah, there's the Clown and the Candyman podcast, which does, and big recommend on that. I normally don't listen to true crime, but that one is like extremely good.
Cool.
It's a podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, there's, I guess, spoilers for anybody who cares about Stranger Things, but Stranger Things Season 4 is basically Programmed to Kill.
Yeah, it's like, but good. But
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
but that's good.
Yeah, it's got, like, a serial killer who is experimented on by, like, an MKUltra project, who then goes on to, like, kill, like, people who've had some sort of trauma. And through experimenting on him, they create other, like, mind-controlled people. Like, you have that terrible Disney Plus Marvel show Moon Knight, which is about a CIA agent who had childhood trauma, who created a split personality from it, and who is an assassin. So it's like, I don't know, like again, that's like basically PTK, you know?
Exactly. And then, like, in retrospect, there's just tons and tons of examples in the past as well, like, of different media.
Yeah.
You were saying, Cameron?
I was just going to say there was an awful Jesse Eisenberg movie, American Ultra, a few years ago, where he was like a Manchurian candidate, but it was like a stoner comedy. It was very, very silly. I didn't finish it, but there's so many examples.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, honestly, like, I think if there should be one takeaway for our listeners, if any particular thing, and I know we kind of chatted about a whole bunch today, which was a blast, but if any of this interested you, two things: you should pick up Program to Kill, if we haven't already turned you off to that.
If you can handle it, it's yeah, I wouldn't recommend the book.
Right.
But
it's rad, but also, like, read at your own discretion. But also, you should check out Program to Chill. It's a great show. And you also do, is it Patreon that you use for, like, exclusive content? Yeah, there's like such a back catalog of stuff that's kind of adjacent to this.
Yeah.
And, I know I quickly mentioned the Japan thing, and you were very humble about that. But I think that's a cool series. So you guys should definitely check out the show, because it's a lot more of this.
If I could... Yeah, if I could recommend some episodes too. If people like our Korean War episode, Jimmy actually interviewed the guy who wrote the article that I worked pretty heavily off of, so that episode's amazing. There's you did an episode on the only other book I've ever read that was as difficult as Program to Kill, which is The Rape of Nanking.
Oh yeah.
You've got the episode on that, which was really, really good.
Yeah, that was a great episode.
And then, of course, your Oklahoma City episode was, like, I've listened to that one 2 times already. I'll probably listen to it 2 more times. That episode's fucking amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, tons of great episodes. Program to Chill is a great, great podcast, and I can't recommend it enough.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I have a bunch of free episodes, and then a lot of my new stuff's coming out on Patreon. But for sure, like, ironically, I don't actually talk about serial killers that often.
Right.
It's only once in a while. Usually I'm talking about, like, espionage and, like, weird manipulation of financial markets and accounting shit. Like, I'm usually pretty, like, grounded in, like, relatively less insane sounding things.
Right.
But
Yeah, but occasionally you do go fully off the reservation too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh.
Well, dude, thank you so
very
much
much.
for
No, definitely. Thank you.
This was a real blast. We're really happy you were able to make the time for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much for sitting with us and talking about this today. And if we come up with something in the future, we'd love to have you on again.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to do something in the future.
For sure.
Yeah,
Before
absolutely.
we do our usual little sign off, is there anything in particular that you want to kind of plug? Anything coming up that you want people to be aware of?
No, just check out the show. It's pretty cool. Oh, I sell T-shirts for the show.
There you go.
Yeah,
With the
I'm
face
waiting for
of-
you to get back the Angleton Mindset one back in stock for the American Apparel, because I want one of those.
Because I think I can tell. See, that's why I have the Gildan, because American Apparel, it's not always like, no, for sure. I know what you're talking about, but those T-shirts are cool. They got James Jesus Angleton face on them, which...
Dude, this is the Angleton Mindset is so good.
And then I have some other cool designs. I have a really cool buddy that I work with, Dakota, who makes the designs, and so it's cool stuff. So
Awesome.
Yeah, I would also recommend following you on Twitter, because you can see amazing things like you start a thread with Sabado Gigante, and it ends with Pinochet's secret police, the DINA, disappearing people. And it's really great when you can see one where you see the first tweet in the thread and like the last one, and you're just like, like, how does he make this connection?
Oh yeah, no, that was a fun one.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I guess on Twitter, it's just Jimmy Falun Gong, so you can find it.
We'll toss it in the we'll put links to your stuff in the show notes for you.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, as always, thank you guys for listening. And I think Evan and I might do some bumpers for these. We might split this up. We'll see what we're gonna do. But as always, this has been the Left Unread podcast. I'm Cam, my co-host Evan, and this week we were joined by the one and only Jimmy Falun Gong. We spread mostly by word of mouth. So we always say it, but it's been working. Keep telling people and sharing the love, and we're stoked that people are still listening to our dumb show. So we will.
You guys do such great topics too. It's great.
We try, man.
Thank you very much,
been
man. I appreciate
very much
it.
a learning curve where we're trying to figure out how to make this show, but I feel like we've hit a pretty cool stride where we keep a good mix. So we appreciate it.
Yep.
All right. Well, see ya.
All right. Peace.
Teach you how to whip the grain inside peanut butter, outside with the candy frame. Serving corners diamonds in this jet. I'm on a quest to touch 100 mil before I lay myself to rest. Hand on the Glock, I turn the beam on. A savage on the fucking run, the Unabomber, wreaking heaven, singing sad songs. Red rum, murder engraved inside of my mind. Pulling